And of course, this is going to be a spoiler warning, guys. So if you haven't beat Resident Evil 4 Remake, click off and come back once you play it and beat it. Now, after beating the game and realizing that what is coming next, Capcom is really not going to Resident Evil 9 nor Code Veronica. They're instead working towards Resident Evil 5 Remake. Because of the end of Resident Evil 4 Remake, you will see where the direction of this game and franchise is going. So if you can't, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, subscribe, do it, yada yada YouTube stuff, and let's get right into this video, baby. Resident Evil 5 is often regarded as one of the most divisive entries in the Resident Evil series. While some fans enjoy its co-op gameplay and action-packed sequences, others criticize its departure from the survival horror routes of the franchise. As such, remaking Resident Evil 5 will likely be a challenging task for Capcom. On one hand, the studio will want to stay faithful to the original game's story and characters while addressing some of the criticism it received upon release. On the other hand, they will need to make sure the gameplay and mechanics are up to date to match modern standards. One of the biggest challenges of remaking Resident Evil 5 will be finding a balance between action and horror. The original game leaned heavily into action and had very few horror elements, which led to some fans to feel like, hey, they're departing from their roots. In the remake, Capcom will need to find a way to incorporate more horror elements without sacrificing the game's action-packed gameplay. Like, who wouldn't want to still see Chris punch a boulder? Additionally, the game's co-op gameplay will need to be updated for modern consoles and online multiplayer. This will likely require a significant amount of work to ensure that the co-op experience is seamless and enjoyable. The original game was released in 2009, which means that the graphics and overall presentation are dated by today's standards. The remake will need to update the visuals and audios to create a more immersive, engaging experience for players. I mean, they've done it already with Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 2, and, well, 3, I can't really say much about 3. 3 was, yeah. There are a couple of other parts in RE5 that are at least a little eerie. I mean, the woman getting grabbed and being forced to take the La Plagas the whole way leading up to the first Ouroboros fight. Don't get me started with the swamp part, especially with the crocodiles in the water. Now that part right there. Now it is inevitable. I mean, it's not a question of if they will be making a Resident Evil 5 remake. It's a question of when will it come out. At the end of RE4 Remake, you see Ada talking to Wesker, letting her know how the progress is going. And in the background of Wesker, well, you see what is the continuation of Resident Evil 5. Now, I am a little sad that they will focus on Resident Evil 5 and not Code Veronica. I would much rather see a Code Veronica, only because Resident Evil 2 Remake might be the last time we see Claire. Unless Claire shows up in Resident Evil 5, I don't see that happening. For those of you who don't know, Resident Evil 5 is a survival horror game developed and published by Capcom in 2009. The game was a commercial success, but it received a lot of mixed reviews from critics and players alike. The game's mixed reception can be attributed to several factors, including its gameplay, story, and characters. One of the main criticisms of Resident Evil 5 was its departure from the survival horror genre, like I said earlier. The game was more action-oriented than its predecessors, but it was still fun, action, arcade-ish type style. The older ones focused on exploration and puzzle solving. This shift in gameplay mechanics made some fans real negative about this game. Fans feels like the game had lost its identity as a Resident Evil title. On the other hand, some players appreciated the change and enjoyed the game's fast-paced action sequences. Resident Evil 5's plot was criticized for being convoluted and lacking in depth. And additionally, some players felt like the game's main characters, Chris Redfield and Sheva, lacked personality and was not memorable as a previous Resident Evil protagonist. Despite these criticisms, there are several reasons why Resident Evil 5 should be remade though. First and foremost, the game's graphics and visuals have not aged well since its release in 2009. I still think Resident Evil 4 original still looks better than Resident Evil 5. A remake would allow the game to be updated in modern graphics and technology, making it more visually appealing to current and future generations of gamers. I mean, with the success of Resident Evil 4 Remake, the RE5 engine looks amazing right now. Furthermore, a remake could address some of the criticisms that the game received. For example, the game's story could be reworked, provide a little more depth in character development. The gameplay could also be adjusted to strike a better balance between action, survival, horror elements, satisfying both fans who appreciate the game's action-oriented gameplay and those who miss the traditional Resident Evil mechanics. I mean, obviously, they're not bringing back tank controls anytime soon. Overall, making Resident Evil 5 will be a daunting task for Capcom. The studio will need to find a way to balance action and horror, update the co-op gameplay for modern consoles, and update the game's graphics and presentation. If they are successful, then we have ourselves a great remake. Thank you all for watching. This has been your boy Chaz, signing off. Keep on gaming, baby.